It's important in understanding Luke's gospel, the audience for whom he was giving this portrait of Jesus. Luke was a Gentile who became a follower of Jesus. He was not raised as a Jew. He was not really exposed to Judaism that much, but rather came from a Gentile origin. He was also a rather successful individual since he was a physician. And so he was probably more related to the higher socioeconomic group of his own time. And so when he writes his gospel, in this portrait of Jesus that he presents, it's really for, if you would, the upper class to whom he is writing and to whom he is challenging with that message of Jesus. And that's one reason why in Luke's gospel, you'll find that there's many incidents that are not included in the other gospels, such as the one we had this evening about the rich man and Lazarus, or the Good Samaritan, or the prodigal son. All of those are unique to Luke's gospel because he was writing to people like us, like you and me. He was writing to us given our circumstances and our situation of being more fortunate than so many people within our world. And so therefore, these gospel stories that Jesus gives are challenges to us, and certainly the gospel today, where we have poor Lazarus sitting there with his sores and starving to death. And then we have the rich man. The rich man doesn't even have a name. They used to call him Dives, which means wealthy. We'd probably say Mr. Moneybags if we want to use a term today for him. But Mr. Moneybags was there and enjoying his life, but he was not aware of Lazarus as at his door. One of the things that's scary about this particular parable, this teaching of Jesus, is that the rich man doesn't come out and kick Lazarus. He doesn't hit him. He doesn't call the cops and say, "Get rid of this guy from outside of my house." He doesn't call him names and say, "You're a lazy lout." He doesn't do anything like that. He just totally ignores him. Totally ignores him. And that was a sin. It's the fact that he didn't tune in to another person's human need. And that is challenging for us. For we really don't do evil to others, but do we tend to ignore others? Do we tend to put them aside and just kind of pass by? Now, obviously, we can't solve every problem in the world. We can't take care of all poverty, of all human need. And we certainly don't want to enable, but rather we are challenged, though, to show compassion, to show caring for others, and how important that is. During this year of mercy, we are challenged to truly live a more merciful life through the practice of the spiritual and the corporal works of mercy, and particularly those corporal works of mercy of reaching out to the neglected, to the marginalized within our world. And certainly there's different ways in which we can show concern and compassion. Probably the easiest way, but the way we take the most, is to write a check. That's the easiest way to show concern for others. It's much better if we really get involved and really kind of experience something about the needs, serving at the food kitchens, helping at the Shalom House, working in so many different ways, getting our hands dirty in caring for others is so much more important. But there's even a third way, and I think that's the one we tend to neglect. It's not just doing for others, but it's listening to their story. Listening to their story. How important it is for us to listen to other people. And not just to our friends, not just to our co-workers, those kind of in our own socio-economic group, but rather to listen to others, to listen to the hurting. When was the last time that we sat down and talked to the janitor in the place where we worked and listened to his story or her story? When was the last time that we listened to the plight of an immigrant who fled from their home, either in order to find a better life or to get away from violence and threats to them? When was the last time we visited with someone raised in a ghetto amid poverty and so much need? We need to listen to the stories of other people because they will so greatly enrich our own perspective, our own understanding. Jesus gives a tremendous challenge there in the gospel. One of the real challenges at the end, the very last lines of the gospel, the rich man says, well, at least send Lazarus back to my brothers because they will believe him. If somebody comes back from the dead, and Abraham says, if they won't believe Moses and the prophets, they're not going to believe even if someone should rise from the dead. Remember, Luke wrote that at the time that Jesus had already risen from the dead. Jesus rose from the dead. He comes back with that message. But has it caused us to repent? Has it caused us to truly have a different mindset, a greater sense of compassion, a greater sense of understanding, a greater sense of truly showing the mercy and love of God to another person each day? Christ is risen. We are called to faith.